Everyone has a personal story to tell, and at KW Media, we are all about getting your story told and heard. May you have been a war veteran for your country, worked the farming fields, mined for gold in Johannesburg, or trekked difficult living conditions to find solace somewhere else, we'd like to tell your story. All you need to do is click the Connect with Us button on our website, and our team will guide you through the process. Here's your host of the Personal Stories feature, Keenan Williams.
Today we meet up with a young lady who is known as Theresa. This is a pseudonym she has chosen to give herself to tell her African story. Theresa is originally from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Theresa, thanks so much for joining me tonight on The Social Impact. You're currently living in South Africa and had been since you're about 11 years old. Talk to me about that cultural shift you had experienced coming to South Africa and living here and adapting to the difference in life compared to the one you were so used to in the DRC.
I remember those first few years of me being in South Africa, I really hated. I hated being black, and I mostly hated being Congolese because of how people viewed me. Being black was bad enough, but then I'm black and Congolese. That was the worst. That was the worst. And so because my mother is actually mixed, I would always tell people, oh, but my mom is colored. I mean, not by culture, but by race. Just so that I could feel that I'm not as bad, that I'm not as ugly, that I'm not as unvaluable, because that's how I felt being a black child in South Africa. It's very strange because this is not in apartheid. 2007, 2008, 2009, but that was my reality. To a point where, gosh, I can't believe I'm admitting this, to a point where since I was not making any black friends, I didn't make an effort. I would rather be seen, like it was better for me to be with friends who were white or colored, because I felt for some reason that, like, that made me important in a way, that I became a person of value. I don't know if that makes sense. That was horrible, but that was exactly how I felt. So I really avoided being around. I avoided being around a lot of black people at once because I knew what other people said about black people, and I just didn't want to be part of the mockery of being black. Gosh. Anyway.
Theresa, I think this is a narrative you have painted, but it's really not an easy one that you have painted, and it's not an easy life that you've gone through, but it's also something that many, many other people might have experienced as well. You speak of this narrative and the thoughts you had about yourself and how you viewed yourself, and you also mentioned that you had grown since that time when you were in high school to where you are now in adolescence. Do you still have doubts about who you are and second guess who you are as an individual? And talk to me a little bit about the difficulties you are having with life in South Africa presently.
Presently, well, I don't have those stupid ideas anymore. I love who I am. I love the fact that I'm black. I love the fact that I'm African. I love being Congolese because I've grown. I've grown a lot. I've come to understand that my skin color and where I come from and the people that I hang around with are not the source of my value and my worth as a person. But currently, I would say that my present struggles is finding work. It's hard to find work in South Africa as a foreigner. I mean, I'm educated. I have a degree in business management. I'm currently working my postgrad diploma at WITS for property development, and yet I've been looking for work for the last year and a half and nothing. So that's a bit of a damper. But other than that, another issue is, what's the other issue? The other issue, or the other difficulty being a foreign in South Africa right now, especially during this coronavirus crisis, to really see how people in the Congolese community are struggling. I mean, some people literally, they live hand to mouth, and when you're not able to work because you're on lockdown, you cannot feed your children. No, it's really hard because you're in a foreign country, and it's not only Congolese people who are suffering. There are a lot of other South Africans also going through the hardest time, and I think the thought behind a lot of foreigners' minds is always that the children of the land, the South Africans, will always be a priority if they have to be food parcels to be distributed, or if there's to be any kind of rescue plan in place for people who are struggling right now. South Africans are obviously priority, and so that leaves the Congolese people in a state of disadvantage. But for me personally, one of the issues that I've just been having is finding work in my industry as a foreign person, because according to South African law, you cannot hire a foreigner unless there is no other South African there for the job. But anyway, you keep hoping that things will be different, but I do understand why such laws are in place, and I'm not against it.
Yeah, Theresa, it's not the first time that this is brought up, and sadly so. And sadly that, foreigners are finding it so difficult to live, work, and just provide for their families here in South Africa. And I know that these laws are put in place for a certain reason, but for someone who's educated like yourself and many others to be struggling to find work is really sad for us as a progressive society. I know that there are many South Africans, gosh, I'm included in that, who are unemployed and struggling to find a job or to have funders back particular projects. But more needs to be done in the education of individuals to get us to a point of, if we have a job, and a job isn't available for us, then we should be able to create our own opportunities. But with this, we need sponsors and funders to come on board as well. Talk to me a little bit about the small business you set up.
Okay, I have a business. It's a property, not a property. I'm studying property, but that's not. I have a business development business. So the motivation behind that business was basically seeing how many people are unemployed. Not because they have to be unemployed, but because, there's... what am I saying? Anyway, there's a lot of unemployment, and people have all these skills, people have all these talents and these gifts, but they're not using it to gain an income because they don't believe it's worth much. But that's not the truth. I believe whatever you have to offer the world can be monetized. You can gain an income that is sustainable for you and for your family by working on your craft, whatever that may be. It looks different in everyone's lives. It looks different in each person. For me personally, one of my gifts is to help people to develop their businesses. For someone else, their gift is to do people's hair. And it doesn't have to be this informal thing that sometimes gives you an income or that sometimes doesn't. You can work on your business to make sure that it is always profitable. So I believe that we need to put an emphasis on people discovering what it is that they have to offer the world and to work on that. Okay, I'm not sure if that makes sense.
Absolutely, man. It makes a lot of sense because, I read once that when it comes to radio and broadcast, for example, the programmers are the people who work on the show content and host the shows like myself, and salespeople are from two different planets because the one not necessarily understands the other's job and the know-how of how to make it a success. Like, for example, I have a lot of knowledge when it comes to on-air presentation, production, reporting, and so on. But if you ask me to sell an ice block to an Eskimo, I'd definitely fail in that regard. So we need one another when it comes to this. You have your strength and, I have mine. But that shouldn't stop me from learning how to sell and market my business, for example. What are your thoughts on entrepreneurship and local small businesses?
I think when there is more entrepreneurship and people choose to buy or to invest in local businesses, it creates a balance in society, where like the level of income is not so what's the word? Where there isn't such a gap in the level of income between the rich and the poor, because when you invest more in local businesses, the money is going back into your community and it stabilizes people's lives a bit more. And I think that is going to radically change our socioeconomic situation.
And Theresa, talking about that socioeconomic situation, we are focusing on Africa and African stories. What do you think we can do as a continent to boost our economic state, the healthcare system, and our socioeconomic standpoint?
My opinion with regards to what we can do as a continent to advance our economy is to promote and invest in entrepreneurship. I really believe that each person has something to offer. Obviously, that's people who are able and willing to work. We all have something to offer, and we don't need to be hired in a company in order for us to do something, or in order for us to contribute towards our economy. Whatever you have to offer the world, you can be paid for, morally speaking, of course. So I think when we don't focus so much on the formalized system of doing things, you realize that there is a lot of gaps in this world, and there are answers, but those answers, or there are things that can fill those gaps, and those things are found in people.
Theresa, there's quite a lot of messages coming through via WhatsApp as well as our social media, talking about people who are commending you, saying that you're very brave to come on and talk about the insecurities you had, especially racially, and talking about where you came from as well, and how uncomfortable it might have made you feel being who you are, coming to South Africa and not really accepting yourself, but getting to a place where you accept yourself now, and talking about this African identity that you have within yourself now. Talk to me lastly about what is an African to you.
I really don't know how to answer that, because there isn't one answer for what is an African. I mean, if you were to ask a Christian, what is a Christian, it's easy. You will say that it's somebody who follows Jesus, who believes in ABCD, but what is an African? I mean, I was born in Africa. My ancestors, my parents are African. My grandparents, most of them, are African. So for me, that would be the answer. And obviously, because of where we were born, those beliefs, what am I talking about? I really don't know how to answer that question. When you ask an American, what is an American? I mean, what answer do you expect? You are who you are. I guess I'm an African because I was born in Africa. My ancestors are from here, and I'm the color that I am. I don't know. I don't think there's one answer for it.